All right, so my name is James Waugh. I'm here from Near, and I'm going to talk about how and why to create DAOs on Near. But first, we'll just go through the agenda, get everyone on the same page. We're going to start with why Near, because that's really important. Then we're going to talk about why DAOs. I'm going to go into an experiment we've run this year called the Sputnik DAO. And then I'll talk about our new DAO platform, Astro. Then I'll show you how to create a DAO on Astro. And then we'll talk about kind of why to create DAOs, why to create in general, and bring it all together. I'll give you a little bit of information about applying for grants within our ecosystem. And then we can talk about collaboration. I've got some ideas for an event starting tomorrow at 7 p.m. that should be really interesting, organized in a decentralized manner. So stay tuned. But first, I like to say that the purpose of Near is your purpose of Near, because we're very much trying to empower anyone and everyone to learn, build, and grow. And we're coordinating around this shared vision of an open world where all people control their money, assets, or money, data, and power of governance. So going further into that, we're talking about why build on Near. 3 words come to mind: simple, scalable, and secure. So our mission is to accelerate the world's transition to these open technologies by growing and enabling a community of developers and creators. Very simple. And we're all about ecosystem first, openness, pragmatism, simplicity, and growing. So scalability with security is very important. And how we achieve that is through sharding, which you might know from Ethereum 2.0 as the approach for long-term scalability. And we're actually introducing the first phase of implementing sharding on Near mainnet next month, November 15th. And that'll be phase 0. And by the beginning of next year, we'll have phase 1 implemented, which will be multiple shards. And then by the end of next year, the plan is to implement dynamic sharding, which means there will be a dynamic amount of shards. So it can increase or decrease based on the demands of our network. So that's a major advantage of Near, is the sharding implementation coming around the corner this year. And then I'll just go through some numbers. We launched October of last year, so it's been about 1 year, and we've got 40 million transactions total, a little over 1 million accounts. I'm really proud of the 100+ guilds, which are coordinating projects across various communities. And we have 100,000 members in those guilds. And then we have 1,000 monthly active developers and 200 projects and counting. And then the highlight here is we've got 300 DAOs, more than 300 now, which are across those 2 platforms I mentioned, Sputnik and Astro. And we've distributed about 45 million in funding thus far. And I'll share announcements related to how we're expanding those efforts. So here's a quick picture of the Near ecosystem back from September. It's the best one I could find, but there's a lot of community-generated graphics like this one, made by Nearmates, one of the Twitter accounts promoting our ecosystem. And you can look into the various logos there, but just giving you a picture of what's going on. And now we'll dive into DAOs and why DAOs, starting with what is a DAO. Breezing through it, we've all heard it. It's a decentralized autonomous organization. It can be like a community or a cooperative. I call them blockchain-based entities. When talking about legal entities, it's a little bit different, but you can have a legal entity associated with your DAO. And you can describe it as a digital company. I prefer more like a collective agency. And just a few concepts to keep in mind. We've got proposals, we've got voting, and ultimately we're making decisions about how to act as a group. And then we have this common purpose as a DAO. And I referenced the Near purpose earlier being your purpose of Near. And that's kind of our philosophy, is pluralization of these DAOs. Instead of having the Near DAO and everything kind of trickling down from there, we're trying to empower all kinds of DAOs to define their own purposes on chain and coordinate around them by submitting proposals and voting, but also just communicating and working off-chain to make decisions. And I'll give a quick review of the functionality. It's all about meeting, voting, and funding. So you want to bring people together, you vote, and you manage funds usually, but you could also manage other kinds of resources. And we'll go into that a little bit. So why DAOs in general? I like to talk about coordination a lot, but it's really about collaborative coordination. So you're not just, delegating responsibility to coordinate and, responding to this hierarchy of, delegation and that kind of management structure, but it's rather collaborative and it's open systems for decision making. Anyone can participate and it's fully transparent, and the legitimacy is provided through built-in reporting, because whatever you're doing in a DAO is available for all members to see and available for anyone to see. So the community ownership really matters, and you have stakeholders actively participating rather than just sitting by the wayside. And ultimately, it's about responsible distribution of resources, not only funding, but human resources. And that means you have accountability, and the meaning of that accountability is really important. Whereas before, you didn't really have the human side attached to these decisions. It was attached to the organization. Now you have a record of who made what decision and contributed to the final outcome of a proposal. So you can see, oh, that person voted yes, this person voted no, and that's just a granular example. There's all kinds of nuance there, building reputation systems around your activity on-chain, etc. And really, I'm excited about DAOs because it feels like the convergence of all three major use cases that I care about in blockchain, which are NFTs, DeFi, and DAOs. So really, when I'm talking about DAOs, I'm talking about all of the above. You can have NFT-governed DAOs, which are really interesting, or you could have a combination of tokens involved in a treasury of a DAO, or you could just have token-weighted voting, which we've seen is beneficial in some cases and not so beneficial in others. And I'll just throw in a few examples of these financial components on Near, building into the why create DAOs on Near. So we've got Ref Finance, our major decentralized exchange platform, has gone from 0 to over 100 million in total value locked this year. We've got Metapool, which is a very unique liquid staking protocol, so you can earn staking derivatives by contributing to the security of Near. And then we've got Burrow, which is a lending protocol, which is going to be launched very soon. And these are just a few highlights. If you want to learn more about Near DeFi, you know where to find me. And here's a quick overview of the NFT platforms in our ecosystem, including Mintbase, which has a neat model of factories for stores where the creators actually control parameterization, which is governance. And then we have Paras, which is more like a gallery platform where you're using their smart contract to mint, and it's kind of like a super rare or equivalent NFT platforms. And then on the other side here, we've got Human Guild, which is focused on all kinds of earners and specifically gamers who play to earn, and CreateBase, which is like the community around Mintbase. And then we've got Codeme, which is a nonprofit which has formed a DAO in our ecosystem and has been running for over 10 years, led by the head of Near Foundation Labs, Jordan. So we've got Astro DAOs. This is a major project from the Near Foundation Labs that is introducing new features. So we've got this flexible role-based voting policy idea, which means you could have multiple groups with different permissioning, or you can have different voting policies for each group. So you could say, all right, this group can vote on that kind of proposal, and they need 50% votes yes to approve. And that group needs 30%, and they can only vote on that kind of proposal. So you can really get creative with how you set up your DAO structure. You're not required to set up another DAO if you want another group making decisions independently. So the other thing is you can now have any kind of token in your treasury, including non-fungible tokens. So on the V1 platform, Sputnik, you can only pay in Near, But now you can pay in stable tokens. You can pay in your DAO's token. You can pay in whatever token is out there, and that makes it a lot more interesting. And we have polls and bounties, which are very useful features that aren't just for payouts. You can actually inform the payouts, or you can delegate the responsibility to your community, deciding what is needed by submitting a proposal to allocate resources to a bounty. So they can say, I think this is needed, but I can't get it done. I'm going to propose this much going into an escrow type of DAO that funds anyone who completes the bounty. And then we've got elections, so you can actually vote on membership, and that plays into the flexible role-based voting policies I mentioned, and cross-DAO accountability. So this is really complex about how to measure positivity across DAOs and within different frames of reference. So we need this kind of ability to submit a proposal from a DAO to another DAO. We have a multi-DAO where these various ambassadors are representing the overall DAO and submitting individual votes based on their DAO's decision, separate from the multi-DAO. And then, we have all kinds of, DAOs of DAOs of DAOs. That's kind of the idea, is there's not just the one near DAO, but you can spin up your own near DAO. And, we use these DAOs in our community all the time. And we've actually done this experiment, which led to the development of Astro, but we had Sputnik DAO, which was a factory, and it generated over 200 DAOs, which distributed $2.5 million over the past 8 months. And so we've actually funded various DAOs from Near Foundation, who then redistribute funds to other DAOs and so on. And that's how our community actually sources a lot of the projects and other opportunities that we have. So it's a self-organizing funding platform, which is super interesting to me because I don't want to make decisions, or Near Foundation doesn't want to make decisions about how these resources are spent, because they're intended for the community to decide, and we can't empower the community without something like a DAO, or unless we just start investing in various legal entities, and that's not quite the same. I think we're learning and kind of playing with the trade-offs to see what works and the benefits and challenges of either approach. But as we're learning, we're putting more and more money into the DAOs and seeing where that goes, because the accountability is key. So one example of an Astro DAO is the Aurora DAO. And you might have heard of Aurora. It's the EVM-compatible engine that runs on Near, and it's actually an EVM, Ethereum virtual machine, as a Rust contract on Near. And you can simply change your endpoint of your Solidity application, and you have a scalable approach to providing the same kind of user experience you might have on Ethereum without the high fees and the slow transaction times. So definitely check out Aurora DAO. There's some high-profile contributors in there. You see them there, but they're a kind of council model, whereas the Aurora token being launched soon might introduce other approaches to governing the Aurora DAO and other DAOs in the Aurora ecosystem. And I just wanted to highlight the ecosystem versatility with interoperability solutions like Aurora and the Rainbow Bridge connecting Near and Ethereum, and Octopus Network, which is like a substrate blockchain development framework where you can actually launch a substrate blockchain on Near, and you can launch your app chain alongside Near with Octopus Network running on Near. So that's really interesting. If you haven't heard of it, definitely check it out. And now let's talk about how to create a DAO on Near, because I think it's worth mentioning that you shouldn't rush into creating a DAO. That's the #1 step. Start with off-chain discussion. Make sure you know what you're doing. You don't need a DAO until you need a DAO. And when you do, Astro is there for you. And it's really simple to create a DAO. And you can parameterize, or you can actually configure the DAO however you need. So there's all kinds of possibilities. The meta governance, it's governance about governance, deciding how to decide. And these are the three main decisions you have to make when you're forming a DAO on Astro. First is the structure. You see on the right here, you can choose between members only or a flat structure, which doesn't have roles. It has one group. The next decision is voting power, whether you want it to be democratic or token weighted. And then finally, the proposals being open, or should they be members only? So only members of the DAO in whatever group might submit a proposal. So those are the main decisions. And then after that, you just have to give it a name, write a description, add some links, and you create the DAO. So that's the main decision-making process, which should happen off-chain before you even take it to the mainnet. You can play around with the concepts and talk through what is best for your DAO. And then following the formation of your DAO, the first thing to do is add members. So you're going to need people to join, and you can have different groups for them to join, and that's open, so anybody can submit a proposal to join. And then you might experiment with various proposal types. And one proposal type that I'm going to highlight is a custom function call. And this is the secret sauce of Astro, because now you can submit a proposal to do anything on Near as a group. If you can do something with your individual account on Near, then you can do it with a DAO using Astro. And that means whatever contracts running on Near can be used by a DAO. And that means you could buy NFTs, you could stake, you could submit, a proposal to another DAO. You could submit proposals to multiple DAOs at once. You could, have a multi-call function that you agree to execute as a DAO. So there's all kinds of things you can do with Astro, and we're just getting started. And ultimately, the goal is to reimagine our world. We have these economic incentives around ownership, changing how applications evolve, and Astro is a great example of that. While it's growing, the governance of Astro is evolving. And this ownership economy allows the transformation of users into owners. So if you join Astro, create a DAO, or contribute to another DAO, you're going to be part of that economy, and you're going to have ownership. And then usage mining, which is a very generalized concept, could be a lot of things, but that's what's transforming the value creation into value alignment. So when you're creating these networks of value, you're actually coordinating rather than just optimizing for the value creation. And that brings me to the big number. $800 million in a global ecosystem fund announced. $350 million is going through a spin-out called Proximity Labs, focused on DeFi. We have $250 million going through the Near Foundation grants program. $100 million is going into startups. And then another $100 million is going into regional and local communities like Near Portland, which is an example I'm trying to use in the last part of my presentation. But here's a rundown of all the options for getting funded. Among others, this is not a comprehensive list, of course, but if you are interested, let me know. I can help you get in the right place, and it should be really easy. Near.org/grants is the best place to start, but there's other options listed here. And if you want to learn more about Near, about building on Near, you should check out near.university. It's a great place to start, and you can see some of the stats reflecting success from the past few months just getting started with Near University. So I can't highlight Near University enough. It's one of the best places to get started in our ecosystem. And then finally, we've got the Near Portland DAO. Here's the example. Here's where I use myself as an example of coordination failure with the centralization risk of me on the council of one, trying to coordinate an event following the conference. We're going to the Society Hotel, and we had this rooftop, and we still can go. But I've been gathering feedback from the new members of this DAO as they join, and what I've learned is I don't know the Pacific Northwest very well. I'm from New York, was planning this event last week, the weeks before, enjoying the weather, and we finally made the decision, and I get here and it's raining, it's gonna be cold. I'm just making the wrong decision for the DAO. Who am I? So what I'm gonna do is you can join the DAO by going here. And if you wanna coordinate with me, I'm still planning to do an event, but I'm not sure where we're going. All I know is drinks on me, whatever you want, and here's where you can find all the resources, but the QR code takes you to the DAO. And if you need help joining the DAO, what you need is, first of all, a Near wallet. If you don't have one and you need help getting a wallet, let me know. I can get you one really quickly. And you'll need a minimum of 0.1 Near as a deposit for your membership proposal. And I can help with that too. But that's my presentation. And I hope you learned a little bit about Near, a little bit about DAOs, but most importantly, I hope you learned about why to create in general, because that's what I believe this ecosystem of ecosystems is really all about. So thank you very much.